Hi Stokies, it's Craig here from the Bear Pit TV and I'm going to be looking forward to this Sunday's game against Watford. So obviously we lost to Bournemouth 2 weeks ago. It's the sort of result that drives me up the wall. You were going into a game, I was convinced we were going to win. I did a video of Elle a few weeks ago and I said bluntly we will win this 2-0, no problems, no doubts. Naturally we lost and I looked like a bit of a dickhead. But it's one of them games where you've almost looked at the table and worked out where you're going to be with 3 points. Not because it's Bournemouth or anything like that, it's purely because we're on a great run and I felt it within me that we were definitely going to win that one. I worked out that we were going to be ninth at the end of the day and all the rest of it. And of course, when you set yourself out to win, you set yourself up for a fail, and naturally Stoke lost, and that loss drove me up the wall. It completely ruined my week. Does anybody feel like that after a Stoke loss? It just destroys the week. You're in a right grump. Woke up Monday morning, I was just miserable. I couldn't wait for the Watford game quick enough just to try and redeem that loss and get on with it and get some positivity back into Stoke. Looking at why we lost, it's a really difficult one to say. As I mentioned, we were on a fantastic run at the time. We hadn't lost in 6. We were looking good despite a few injuries. I think it's quite obvious when you look at it, really, that our defensive midfielders are so important. And more specifically, I'm going to keep saying this, despite I think a few people don't necessarily agree with this, but Glenn Whelan is so important to the team. He really is. He's not that glamorous, I get that. He's not exactly the most creative player, but he makes us tick. He does something that we potentially can't see. I don't know, but he does something. And without Glenn, and then to a lesser extent Cameron, and to an overall extent defensive midfielders, our team looks so vulnerable and shaky, and there's gaps everywhere. And it's weird to think that we've got all these on paper fantastic players. We've got Shaqiri, Nautovic, Bojan, Bonnie up front. But when Whelan or a defensive midfielder, a decent, genuine defensive midfielder, isn't in the team, it doesn't really make a difference because the whole structure of the team seems to fall apart. And I believe that Glenn and Cameron are both doubts again for this Sunday, so I don't know how we're going to fix that problem, but it's something we really need to look to do. And maybe come January, we need another genuine defensive midfielder, because I don't think Mbula is necessarily that either. And what's really frustrating about that Bournemouth performance was that we were slowly creeping away from the relegation places. We were heading towards mid-table, and I think the win would have taken us up to comfortably upper mid-table-ish, and the season would have seemingly been back on track after that horrendous start. As it happened, we lost, and all of a sudden we're only 3 points away from the relegation zone. If we lose on Sunday and results go against us, I believe we could potentially, worst case, be joint with third bottom, which I believe would be Hull, which is bizarre. Going out of the West Ham game into the Bournemouth game, it seemed like we were back on track. Hopefully we are back on track, and the Bournemouth game was just a little blip, but we'll have to wait and see. So obviously looking forward, we've got Watford, and they've had a really positive start to the season. They've got Walter Mazzari, who no experience in English football in management prior to this. He was manager of Inter Milan and Sampdoria, I believe. But they've surprised me. I didn't think they'd be up there at all. I thought often when you see a Premier League club almost panic and bring in a foreign manager with no experience in the Premier League, it usually backfires. But in this case, it's seemingly going very well. They've got Caputo, who scored 5 goals this season, and more often than not, it's a decent goal as well. He's a very good player, someone that I really do rate. And of course, they've got Troy Deeney, who I believe is 1 goal away from his 100th league goal. And you just can't help but worry that the Stoke City charity is going to roll into town and give him that little moment on Sunday. I hope I'm wrong, but I've got a bad feeling he might make that milestone on Sunday. Hopefully I'm wrong. I think another thing to be very wary of as well at the moment is that we are slowly creeping towards the end of these, on paper, inverted commas, easy fixtures. A lot of Stoke fans noted that we did have quite a difficult start to the season, and we did. We had Tottenham, Man City, Everton away. And then we had a decent run from maybe early October through to early December. But that is coming to an end soon. I think we've got on the horizon Arsenal away, Liverpool and Chelsea away over the Christmas period. And if we're not in a decent, stable position when these games get here, it's going to be a very long and difficult Christmas period. So we've got to get the maximum amount of points we can over the next couple of games. We've obviously got Bournemouth and then Burnley, I think Southampton and Leicester in there. They are massive, massive games, because after that we've got some really, really tough fixtures. I want to quickly touch upon Bojan as well. He obviously had a poor game against Bournemouth. Arguably, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but arguably his poorest game in the Stoke shirt. And it's such a shame, because everybody loves Bojan. Everybody wants him to perform, and everybody wants him to return to that Bojan of the first season. Because then we really did experience a player that was fantastic. That little period before Christmas 2 seasons ago, it was some of the best individual performances I've seen in my 30 years as a Stoke fan. It was absolutely fantastic. I couldn't believe it. He's just not really touched that since then. Obviously he's had his injury and that's taken a lot out of him. But I get the impression, for the first time, having read the message boards and spoken to friends and family about Stoke, and Bojan specifically, it's the first time Stokies have not turned on him, but I think there's been a slight change in the air about how people perceive Bojan, and I feel a lot of frustration coming from the fans now. It's frustration that we can't, or rather Bojan specifically, can't seem to recapture that form that we saw at the start of his Stoke City career. So there's my Watford preview. It's a game that is very, very, very important. Obviously every game's important, but following that Bournemouth loss, it's one that we really need to pick up 3 points to try and propel us back to that mid-table position places. I am obviously doing a Stoke City video here, so I'm obviously going to be positive and say that we will nick it 1-0. I think Arnie will score the 1 goal. I think he's overdue a goal now. He's not scored in the league since Palace. And having got a decent fistful of goals last year, I think he's due one, and hopefully he'll score. Let us know what you reckon to my video. Let me know your opinions on Bojan as well. Do you feel that Bojan's he needs more time, he needs another shot at it, or do you think he's kind of getting to the end of this the waiting game for him to return to form? Also, let us know your predictions, give us a like and all the rest of it, and we will of course see you at Vicarage Road this Sunday.